in Congress gave itself a year and a half trying to figure out how to cut some spending. They couldn't figure it out. It's going to be across the board meat axe approach. That's the main issue we're dealing with right now. That's the most time-sensitive matter. Beyond that, we got tax reform in the next year. How can we fix the tax code? And frankly, I think both sides are engaging in sort of a dated dance right now because the issue of whether or not the Clinton tax rates ought to come back or the Bush tax cuts ought to be extended are both missing the boat. The president's own commission on deficit reduction says both those rates are higher than they have to be if we just plug all the holes in our tax code. Because our tax code is leaking so much money that if we just overhaul the tax code, we could actually bring in more money and lower the rates for everyone. And who wouldn't want that? We can do it. But the president's own commission talking. And I'm optimistic we can do something about that over the course of the next year. And finally, we're spending too much money on silly stuff. I mentioned that before. We really got to buckle down and make sure. It may just be $30 million here or $100 million there, but it is overwhelmingly discouraging on the American people to find out some of the silly stuff that makes its way to the federal budget. We got to do $30 million for bingo markers and tax savings. That's what we're dealing with in the next year. That's a preview of coming attractions. And since you got more local stuff that's more important, I'm going to yield the floor now. But thank you for everyone for the chance to say hello. And if you have questions, I don't want to preempt y'all's meeting because I know y'all got your own agenda.
I do have a question. First of all, congratulations. I couldn't imagine seeing Honey Google up there. Let me say this here locally, because I get a lot of these calls as it relates to Fort Gordon, and you mentioned some things in reference to Fort Gordon. But here locally, have you had any communications at all with the folks at Fort Gordon in reference to the closing of Gate 5? We have a lot of constituents. What has happened is after 10:30, now that gate is closed, and a lot of our veterans that live south of Tobacco Road and so forth would have to, if there's an emergency that come up, they got to go to the hospital, whatever the case may be, they have to travel all the way around to Gate 1. And so if you could put that on your purview, because there's a lot of individuals that, they think that we control that locally.
Gate 5 at 10:30 at night.
At 10:30 at night. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind it. It could be economic, it could be whatever, but there's a lot of, not just veterans, but there's just a lot of folks here, but especially our veterans who have served, they feel like that's a little much for, generally South Augusta has been beat on already.
So you got my district director, send us to you later on?
Yes, sir.
I say, I ran for office because I was not convinced we had leadership in District 1. So I hope that makes it clear to people where I stand. I just want to take quick advantage because we have two commissioners and folks that maybe I didn't get to meet because you might not be in District 1. But we've been through the privatization of our transportation. During my campaign, the one thing I have done is met so many people whose lives depend on transportation and so many others that have the potential to help us improve it. But we've done the privatization. If we can't bring it back to us, please, if you gentlemen would help us work on a transportation authority, perhaps, to develop that idea with our folks that are here, well, not anymore, but from the local legislature. That might be the way for us to get that funding and get the resources and get the expertise that our city deserves to move people for transportation. There are jobs that nobody can get to. There are people just sitting at home because they don't have reliable transportation. That's probably the biggest lesson I learned during my campaign. And so no matter who gets in, I'm going to continue to work on that with all of you. But this step of a transportation authority, if we could really look at that, I think that perhaps that might be an answer. And I want you to know, that's, I think, while we're all here, is trying to figure out how to give people what they deserve. So I thank you for that, for time. And I just want to thank anybody who has supported me. Word of mouth is probably the more valuable thing, so it doesn't matter that you didn't live in my district. I appreciate your thoughts and best wishes and comments. And so it's not over. The fight for transportation and the fight for jobs and job training isn't over in Augusta. We can still work on that no matter who gets there. But
convention split all the conventions that was lost with very inconsistency in 2010. Now, 6 of the conventions have sort of put one group at a disadvantage. That's what I said. when it's 5-5, at least you're gonna have to negotiate. That is what I said. Okay, I went on to say, if history repeats in 2012, with similar turnout to 2009, the incumbent is here. I think our board of election person is gonna probably echo that this morning. See? I said, if turnout is similar to 2009, Commissioner Aiken will be coming back. Said Lockett, who is not endorsing either candidate. Of course, George did not say this, and it didn't show my picture, did not identify me as a commissioner when it was on Channel 6. You can put it up for yourself if you like. Now, don't just think about on the commission. What you got to realize is the commissioner is responsible for funding the sheriff's department. We are responsible for funding the sheriff's department. We are responsible for funding the solicitor general's office, the probate court. We are so happy because all these people won the election, but if they don't have the money, they can't operate.
That's right.
When we leave here, everybody ought to be out somewhere in District 1 as often as they can between now and the close of the polls on next Tuesday. That election is that important. If you think the incumbent has showed you during the past 3 years what he going to do for another 4 years so he doesn't have to be worried about re-election, you're crazy. So now, are you going to help us so in turn you can help yourself, or are you just going to sit down and feel pitiful when the results come in on Tuesday? It's up to you. Thank you.
A production of AnibalShow.
AnibalShow.com